And if you have questions, I'll do my best to respond within the next few weeks to any of your questions. And we're just going to need to move on in my report at this time. We want to report on what happened in Memorial that we had last year, Memorial 18.03. Which was titled Toward an Open and Healthy Articulation of Human Sexuality. It requested a rewrite of Vision and Expectations and an inclusive task force to guide that revision. We had memorialized church-wide to do this. They let us know that it should really not come from the assembly because the rewrite of Vision and Expectations was under a church council, the ELCA church council purview. So we were asked to have our synod council resend this as a memorial to church council. So at our August church council meeting, the first one following this assembly, the synod council indeed did what you had asked us to do. We sent that as a memorial. Church-wide received it, and there it is at this particular time. So that's just what happened with that memorial. Synod Council felt you should know what took place. If any of you are going to Churchwide and thought that this would be on the floor of Churchwide, that's why it's not on the floor of Churchwide, because we were asked to do a different procedure. We have a new strategic plan that our Vice President Lori Herman talked about that is going to be, we're going to be helped by the firm of Gronlund, Sather, and Brunkow to look at our mission, vision, and values as a synod. We did this in 2015 before I was elected under the Walking into the Future Together information. We're going to gather all of that information with this consulting firm, but it's been already 4 years ago now, and it's time to gather some new information and to look at our mission, vision, values, and to help us go forward as a synod. GSB has worked with the Rocky Mountain Synod and with the Texas, Louisiana, Gulf Coast Synods and have done wonderful work. Rocky Mountain has really come together under their help and found a renewed energy and focus and enthusiasm for mission done together, and we are hoping for the same for us as well, and we will keep you informed as that progresses. Finally, I want to say thank you to our deans. Stand up and stay standing. Do not applaud until I'm done reading. To our deans, Richard Vevia, Sandy Bentz, Linda Brown, Kate Lear, Jennifer Schultz, Catherine Zerker. All of these are pastors because as deans you have to be. Special thanks to our deans who are completing their terms, Kara Marone, Scotty Lloyd, and Brenda Boss. And our thanks to our newly elected deans, David Nagler, Matt Anderson, and Marty Jacobson. Are you standing up? Let's give them a round of applause. The deans do a ton of work as an extension of your bishop's office when staff cannot get there, and we are very grateful for that work that they do. I want to thank our Synod Council members, Lori Herman, Angela Jackson, Tom Pankow, Damaris Allen. Again, stand up. I don't have to repeat that. Reverend Paul Bieber, Reverend Linda Brown, Reverend Golf Chittima Pongrat, Becky Draper, Mark Fornwall, Greta Goldrich, Jerry Marichek, Deneen Pij, Reverend Maria Santa Cruz, Reverend Brian Taylor, and we want to thank especially our offgoing Synod Council members, or those whose terms have already ended. Gary Kakert, our treasurer, who left in November to move to the Grand Canyon Synod and was is now replaced by Synod Council action by Tom Pankow, and those who's been termed out, Paul Coulter, Emily Erisman, Reverend Kim Krogstad, and Jan Newhouse. Did I miss anybody? Let's give these people a round of applause. Thank you to our rostered staff, Reverend Terry Tuvey Allen, Reverend Tom Golrich. Our lay staff, our lay staff, this Synod Assembly would not run without our lay staff, and I want to tell you, it is somewhat an extra burden of work for those of us who are rostered. It is a huge extra burden of work for our lay staff. And so Terry Robertson, Rachel Line, Carol Youngman, thank you so much for all the work that you've done to make this assembly happen. Finally, special thanks to Pastor Dennis Laerty, who is retiring from active ministry. I brought him in 2.5 years ago. I managed to drive him out of active ministry in just that amount of time. Thank you, Pastor Dennis. And a final thank you to our Synod Assembly planning team, co-chaired by Brenda Boss and Kinley Lund. I don't have all your names, but if you served, I know Greg Ronning served. There are others who served. Would you please stand up at this time if you served? Roberta Wall. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks again to Hope Lutheran Church, Pastor Derek, Pastor Gerald, Pastor Rick, all the people who've opened the facility, and what a great volunteer group that they have with us here. We want to just give them a great deal of thanks. And thank you to the voting members of the 2019 Assembly. Thank you. This is your work, and I appreciate the work, the care that you do in getting this work done. Thank you very much. You can stand and applaud yourself if you'd like. And as she's coming back up to continue sharing, I just want to say a particular thanks again to Lori Herman, who is thorough, asks a lot of questions, and makes me think about stuff I'd rather not think about, but is important for the Synod. And so thank you so much for your work.
Thank you. It's very tall. It's all that wonder I have, yes. So I know my introduction to you was very brief. So my return of the chair to you will be also brief. Thinking about joy and working with leaders, it is a joy to work with you and your leadership, Bishop. Thank you very much. And finding the right people for the right job. I think we did that. So thank you very much, and I return the chair to you.
Tom Pankow, our treasurer, is going to come back up, and then we're going to vote on the budget. So get your green and red cards ready.
Well, good morning again. Hopefully the slides work better today. First, in today's presentation, I'm going to briefly highlight the major components of our Synod General Fund budget for the fiscal year 2020 to 2021. And if what that means, if you're not familiar, is beginning February 1st of next year. That's what this budget is for. Okay. We're in today the spending plan. So the first slide, we like to begin when we prepare a budget to look at a set of assumptions that will ultimately guide the process. And the major assumptions typically are involved in the expected realization of revenues that were needed to support the Synod activities. So in various budgeting iterations, we attempt to reconcile those revenue assumptions with the expenditure needs of the Synod. So I wanted to just briefly highlight the revenue assumptions, and they should be familiar to you from yesterday's discussion or presentation from the ELCA representative. First of all, we're anticipating a 1.5% increase in the amount of congregational mission support from all of the congregations. Out of that, about 51% will be directed to the ELCA, and you heard yesterday about that they're doing wonderful things with that. And then an additional allocation of approximately $8.2 million goes to local affiliated institutions and agencies that we support, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. There are many other assumptions that we have to make as we go through the process and the budget deliberations, and there's a complete listing of those on page 3-6 of your workbook if you've looked at it. So the next slide, please. So what does that 1.5% mean in terms of dollars and cents? Our congregational mission support in the current spending plan is $1,439,000 and will increase to $1,460,000. Of that, the mission support to the ELCA will increase from $734,000 to $745,000, and then the Synod grants will go from $118,000 to roughly $120,000. So the remainder of that congressional mission support stays within the Synod and helps to pay for the many programs and staff that we have. Next slide, please. So I wanted to highlight the 8.2% of the congregational support that's designated for the affiliated agencies. And they're divided among many institutions. I'll just read off some of them. San Diego State University Campus Ministry, the Pacific Lutheran Theological Seminary, the Lutheran Planned Giving Partnership, the Central City Lutheran Mission, the Lutheran Retreats, Camps, and Conferences, the Lutheran Social Services of Southern California, California Lutheran University, and there are 6 others that we basically spread the wealth around. Next slide, please. So what does that budget look like overall? Well, we're anticipating revenue of $2,120,000. And that, so your congregational mission support is the baseline, and then we add to that some other funding that we receive. This total amount of support is very consistent with the last few years of actual revenues. So if you look through the numbers, you'll see that. And then the revenue is allocated between benevolence expenses, which includes all of our mission support activities, the Synod offered expenses, and then support for the many ministry teams that we have. And again, if you looked at the reports in your book, you would find that these expenses are remarkably consistent over the years. We try to balance all those revenues and expenses and end up with a deficit that's roughly neutral, or immaterial in this case. So benevolence expenses are $1.2 million, $1,265,000, Synod office expenses of $832,000, and ministry team expenses of just under $25,000, gives us a total of approximately $2,122,000 of expenses that we will anticipate to incur in this fiscal year. All of this information has been in your workbook in pages 3-8 to 3-13, and I would characterize this budget as really a maintenance budget. There's no real major changes in our structure or our programs or our support that's envisioned at this point. And the budget itself has been reviewed multiple times by not only the Finance Committee, but also by the Executive Committee and the Synod Council. So we feel pretty good that it's been through the process, and it's a fair estimate of what we believe will happen. Before I introduce the motion, I just would like to put a plug for if you have any individuals within your congregation who either aspire to enjoy financials or have a curiosity or whatever, you're welcome to join us in the Finance Committee. Gary left, and we had another death that resulted in our committee being a little bit smaller than we'd like, so we welcome any participation from members of the Synod. So at this point, I move to approve the Synod Council recommended budget for 2020 through 2021.
I believe that is from Synod Council, correct? So it does not need a second. Is there any speaking to the motion? Are you ready to vote? All in favor, raise green cards. Opposed, red cards. Motion carries.
Okay, great.
Thank
you very
you,
much.
Tom. I'd like to invite forward Dr. John Nunez at this time, the president of Concordia College in New York. He's going to give our second keynote speech. He just came in from the East Coast yesterday, so this is like 12 noon to him or something like that, right? So welcome, Dr. Nunez. You are, while at Concordia College in New York, you've helped the college design a new strategic plan, restated the school's mission and values, and guided the school to expand into 4 distinct schools: business, education, health services, and nursing, and humanities. Before leading Concordia, you led Valparaiso University, where you had the Joachim Chair, I believe it's pronounced, a university professorship supporting the study of Christian values in public and professional life. Prior to that, Dr. Nunez was president and CEO of Lutheran World Relief, a $50 million organization with offices in 17 countries working to alleviate poverty and human suffering. He holds a Bachelor's of Arts degree from Concordia College, Ann Arbor, Michigan, a Master of Divinity degree from Concordia Seminary, St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, and both Master of Theology and Doctor of Philosophy degrees from the Lutheran School of Theology at Chicago. He's the author of numerous books and articles, is a proud father, husband, and grandfather. Please join me in welcoming Dr. John Nunez.
Wow, what wonderful hospitality you have extended to Monique and to me. It's like you like us. Thank you so much for your warm welcome. It's been a joy to be here. It's been warm to be here. It's been a joy to be here. And we've had a good time so far. To this bishop, kudos. Where are you? Yes, thank you so much for your leadership, your mission, your vision in this place. I know you know how blessed you are to have this gentleman as your bishop. I know you know that. And to that dynamo, Brenda Boss, Pastor Boss, thank you for all you have done, your patience with me through the invitation and through the process. To the ever-ready Rachel Line, Yes, yes, yes. I'm just delighted to be here. I'm here with my best friend, my partner in Christ, Monique Nunes. Monique, wave your hand, smile. All right, Monique. And Monique is working the slide deck, the PowerPoint slide deck. After that, she'll come forward and offer a musical selection. Oftentimes, I go places and talk, and then she sings, and then they invite her back. So you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm happy to talk from this topic, pluralism and privilege. Pluralism and privilege. And I'm happy to also look at the intersection of pluralism, privilege, and our listening. I won't say much that most of you already don't know, so I want to thank you for permitting me to join your conversation and this dialogue. These days, I've reached the age and stage of life where I go to more doctors than I used to. Anybody know about that? And recently, Mrs. Nunes strongly encouraged me to go have an audiological exam. Do you know what that is? She said that